You've been seeking answers from every dermatologist, doctor, and all over the internet wondering what on earth this unbearable skin issue is. You know something's up, and you've been suffering and silenced for far too long. This podcast is going to bring awareness to the brutal reality that is topical steroid addiction and withdrawal syndrome. It will give you practical mental and physical tips to help you along your journey and provide you the strength you need to push through each day. You'll hear from real people battling this illness, as well as experts in the field, and I'm also going to share with you what's happening as I battle and conquer TSW. You are not alone, you're not crazy, and you will heal. If there's one thing I know, it's that anyone going through this hell is a warrior. My name is Jennifer Powers, and I welcome you to TSW Journey to Healing. Okay, I am so excited to welcome my guest today. This is Kelli Henry. So Kelli, welcome to TSW Journey to Healing.
Thank you, and I'm super excited that you do this and that I can share my story on here. Amazing. I'm nervous a little bit, but I'll get
I'm so glad that you're open to this, and anybody that's a guest, because all these stories really matter and they make a big impact, and yours will too. So I'm excited to give you this platform and ability to do that and share. And thank you for filling out the form. I have had an influx of people lately, and it is super helpful. Number one, to keep it organized for me, but two, also to I want people to be able to reach and find every single guest like yourself. And so it's really helpful. So thank you for doing that. But let's start from the very beginning. Before we get into the TSW piece of it, tell the audience and the listeners a little bit about who you are, where you're from, your background, and your story.
So Kelli Henry, I am from St. Cloud, Minnesota. I've lived here all of my life. Let's see, years ago, I was a dancer. I still am, but I was actually in dance, and I had a love and passion for that when I was young, from 6 to 12. I have 3 children, and I have a husband. I now do art.
As we see in the background, if you're watching this on YouTube, such a beautiful, colorful background. I love it.
Yep. I don't know, and I mean, I was born with eczema, so
so that was going to be my next question. So everybody that unfortunately gets this awful hand that we were dealt and has to go through TSW starts at some point, and for me it was also eczema. So so you were born with it? Is that okay?
Yep.
So
I had
that.
Huh?
Talk about that.
So I was born with eczema, and then let's see, that was 83. So back in the 80s, of course, their solution is to always use hydrocortisone. I think when I was very young, 1 and 2, I was doing Eucerin. But at age 3 is when I started hydrocortisone, and continued on for 30 years. And let's see, by the time I was 13, I had been given I think it was the triamcinolone brand. Then the clobetasol I was using for, oh my God, clobetasol from 13 all the way up. I'm 39 now. And this is my 6th year in TSW withdrawal. But I had a bunch of that, and also at 16, they started giving me the prednisone. And that was insane because at first, it cleared everything up. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was 16. I'm like, wow, my hands and everything. Cleared up, and then I had to keep using it. And for me, it's weird because I had it 7 months at a time in that length of period. I ended up, let's see, after all these years using that, I did notice it started spreading. I never had it on the top of my hands right here. It was always just on the wrist, a little bit on the wrists. But I figured since, when I turned 13, I'm like, well, now when I look back, I'm like, wow, I was on it for 10 years. already. So it was like already spreading and getting worse and worse. And every time I'd go to the dermatologist, they would always tell me the lie, your eczema is flaring. And oddly enough, I remember I went to many different dermatologists, and they would always say, oh, your skin's angry. I remember them always saying that at different places. Like, it was just a thing. I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess it is. But I believed in, going to the doctors and having them tell me what is wrong and having them cure me or whatever. So I took everything that they said. I did end up having that, what was it called, like a buffalo hump from prednisone so much. It goes on the back right here, and it just fills up with fluid, and they say, like, you can't get rid of it. But I had that. I was super puffy, full of water weight. I weighed like 160 pounds at the end of using that. And then another thing was, my whole life I dreamed, like, I want to go to the Mayo Clinic, so then I can be cured, I can be healed. And I always really wanted to go there. And I finally got a referral to go. And that was in 2013. And it was a 2-week stay. I had to stay there. And, God, they were wet wrapping me with it. So when I would go in, they'd have a big jug of triamcinolone. And I would have to put that all over my whole body. And then they had the hydrocortisone I had to put all over my face. And then I would get in the bed, and they would come in with rags and dip them in hot water and then wrap my whole body in it. And then they would put this hot air blanket on me to really open up my pores and get that cream in there. And I would have to sit there for 2 hours at a time, 3 times a day for 2 weeks straight.
Wow.
And, yeah. And when I was done with all of that, and at the end of every single day, I had a team of like 7 doctors in black suits come in and just surround my bed and just, look at, like, hold my hand up, turn me over, look at it, and just, they're just all just staring, and then they'd leave every time. So that kind of sucked because, you're like naked with just like, wraps on you or whatever. And then when it got like a week, I was able to, and every day, I had to put that lotion on and then the triamcinolone, and then I'd have to put like cotton pajamas on and take a shower. Or get like a hot shower and then wrap myself too. And I continued the treatments at home because they told me to. But anyways, when I left there, they gave me, cyclosporin to take for the rest of my life. And when I saw that prescription, I was like, okay, for the rest of my life, like, what is happening? Like, I just had eczema. What the hell? Like, so I had that. I had some weird hot pink liquid antiseptic that I could put on all my cuts that burned really bad. I don't remember the name. Yep.
Is it HiPoCleanse?
Yeah, I think it might be. Yeah, that was the first time ever having that. Yeah. And then I was like prescribed free and clear shampoos that I think the Mayo Clinic makes. And right on the top, or right on the bottle in the front, it says formaldehyde free. And right there, I'm like, what the? So does that mean like all my shampoos have formaldehyde in except this one? Like, that's weird. Okay. I had that. I had some oil to put in my bath, and continue the wet wraps, which I did only for like 2 weeks after that. But the scary part was, it was always getting worse, But the scary part was soon, for all them years of using that, it really, really completely stopped working and was rebounding bad, So I would go to the hospital. it started to get into like once a month because my whole face would turn red, like as a tomato. There was no cracks or anything or dryness. It would just bright red. My throat felt like it was closing all the time. I would be like, oh, like anywhere I was. I remember I was my son's birthday party and I had to go to the hospital. You know, I had to quickly leave, and then it was turning into like, this is happening every month. This is, you know, and I was like, I'm like dying. Like, what is happening? And every time they would tell me, oh, your eczema is getting worse, and give me more drugs and more lotions, the same stuff. So at a certain point, I really kept thinking in my head, I was like, okay, I want to change my life. I want to stop using all that lotion. And not to mention how many drugs they had me on for my skin. So I, like, in a daily basis, I was prescribed Benadryl, which we all have that. And I've been using that since a child, you know. But Benadryl, and then with Benadryl, I had 2 times daily, I had to take Zyrtec with that. Then, and also Claritin and hydroxyzine for sleep.
All of that in one day?
All of those at the same time. I had a lot of pills. And then, you know, on top of that, like the cyclosporine, and then they would give me things for anxiety because they said, oh, your emotions have a lot to do with your skin. So we better give you anxiety pills. So then I had anxiety pills. I also had depression pills. And I remember counting and putting out all my pills. I think I had like 11 or 12 bottles every day, plus my lotion. And it was the strong stuff. It was the triamcinolone. I had the clobetasol too. So I had both of those. And so I would always think about, like, I don't want to use like all of this, you know, stuff. Because before I would just trust them, like, oh, I need it. I guess I do. My body needs it. I didn't want to do it anymore, and I would always think about it, and I was like, okay, I'm going to stop my lotion. Well, one day my whole jug of triamcinolone ran out, and I was like, I am not going to use it anymore. I'm just going to stop. And I was looking up, like, how to heal eczema on your own, so I was trying to find ways to do that. And so I ran out of the lotion. And I said, and I don't know what happened with my insurance or anything, if I had any money left to get it, but I really didn't refill the bottle. And as soon as I didn't, I remember just everything, like my whole face, just every part of my body slowly over 3 days was like, well, fast, but like slow, like first my face was just swollen and everything. And I was laying there. I had to go, you know, to somebody else's house with air conditioning because I didn't have any, just to rest. And it was really bad. And I remember then I was like, you know what, just take me to the hospital. Just bring me there. I don't know what else to do. And again, they would give me the same thing. So I remember going home that day and I laid in my bed and I just cried because I was like, I am literally dying. Like, it looks like I'm dying, and I smell really weird that I've never smelled before. The ooze that was coming out was disgusting. It scared the shit out of me. The way I looked scared the shit out of me. And so I was laying there, and I remember telling my husband, I'm like, just leave me. Like, I don't want to get up. I don't want to go to the bathroom. Therefore, I wouldn't drink water or anything. I wouldn't eat because I didn't want to get up and go to the bathroom. And I was like, I'll just make this quicker. I'm just going to lay here until I'm dead, you know? But in those 3 days, like, he made me get up. And I remember running to, like, just reaching over to the computer and just, like, typing in, okay, I'm going to try this one more time. I did not feel like doing it, but I did. I just put healing eczema again. And then scrolled down and found TSW. And I was like, what is that? And I, like, clicked on it and I was reading. I'm like, oh, oh my God, you know, like, wow, whoa, this is all caused by the lotion. And I think it was a Karen Fish, or was it Karen?
Yeah, that's.
I believe it was her. And I was like, oh my God, like, this is happening because of the lotion that I've been using. And I can't tell you how betrayed I felt. And how I just could not believe that they would do this to me. And I will say that lasted 3 years. Well, that's how long the bedridden and skin falling off was, 3 years straight. And I remember
you were bedridden for 3 years.
Yeah, yes, I was. I mean, there was little times where I could, you know, go up and I would have to force myself to like drive my kids to school, or, you know, I would have to go get food for certain, you know, to the grocery store, and I would push myself to the limit to just do these small things, and I would be right back in bed again because I couldn't wear clothing, and it literally was 95% of my body. So but like I remember, and I have like 5 journals filled of me my writings and everything. But I do remember every morning I'd wake up and it seemed like a horrible nightmare. Like I'd wake up from this, you know, dreaming, I don't feel any pain. And then I'd wake up and I would be just flooded with thoughts of, and it was always the first one in my head every morning was, how could they do this to me? How could they, and how are they still doing this? And it would just freak me out and make me so angry. And so every morning I would just lay there and get flooded with these thoughts. And of course I didn't want to move. There was like periods of time where I learned I'd have to lay in bed for like 4 hours before I could even like think about getting up, because I would literally do mental things like, okay, first all these bad thoughts are flooding my head and I'm crying again and I don't want to get up and I want to die every single day. And then try to move past that to say, okay, I got to get up and actually go to the bathroom. So I'm going to have to lay here long enough. And I would move a little bit around in my bed, and I soon discovered that if I had enough blankets on, it would moisten my skin because it would be humid, or, you know, hot under the blanket, and then I could kind of move a little bit better, because if I got up to walk to the bathroom, everything would rip if I would have just gotten up and went, you know, or gotten right out of bed. In those days, like when I was getting better, it would take me 4 hours to get out of bed. That was when I was doing better, you know, for that. But yeah, the flooding of those thoughts and like how they could do this, I started researching the industry, the pharmaceutical industry. I started researching how doctors became like, I went into a lot of research, as I'm sure everybody does. And as I had 3 years to really see, like, why would they be doing this? And why are they still prescribing it? And I remember doing a YouTube video. I did some YouTube videos, but I remember doing a YouTube video, and I think it was like 3 years and like a couple months. And it was the first day I didn't wake up feeling angry and was flooded with thoughts that were, you know, on a constant in my head, coming, like taking me over, basically. Also in those times, just to say how horrible and scary this process is, and terrifying and insidious, and that it is completely preventable. I would like to share that I would be in the bathroom and looking in the mirror at my face, and there was a couple times where I just screamed at the top of my lungs because I just couldn't believe the way I looked, and I was scared to death of the way I looked. And a couple more times when I would wake up and I would, sit up and try to think like, okay, I can do this, and then, get my mental ready, and then sit up and then look, and then all of a sudden look at my hands and just like freak out again, because it's like your whole body looks like you're dying, and you feel it. You feel that way also. And you can't escape your body. I mean, unless you're sleeping or you can astral project or meditate very well, you really can't escape your body, and you have to live in it, and it's scary. And it's and to find out the doctors and the dermatologists did this with a lotion was super. It was like a horror movie. Like I always called it, I'm living in a fantastical nightmare. Like, because there was very great times. Like I'll talk about that definitely. There's very moving times and miracles and little miracles and shifts that happened in that time. But yeah, it's like living in a nightmare, definitely. And yeah, I don't know. I have so much more to say.
Well, so, okay, I have a few questions. So you said the bedridden part of it was for 3 years. When did that start? Was that 3 years ago from now, or what was it? When?
No, I'm sorry. I started August 2017.
Okay.
And from there, that day, it started getting bad, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And it didn't happen to go onto my face. Like I was like, okay, I'm doing good. I'm okay. My face is good. But within like a week, my whole face fell off too. So, and that went from 2017 for 3 years after that. Wow. So let's see, August, 17, 18, 19, I want to say 18, 19, 20. Yeah. I think 20.
How was your support system? You said you have children, you have a husband, family, I'm sure. Like, what was the support? How was that for you?
Yeah. Very good, I would say. I mean, there were some times that people didn't believe what I was doing. Like I've said no to that. I'm like, I'm never going back. I'm not going back to the same person or system or building or industry that poisoned me. That's to me personally, I wouldn't do that. I could not go back to them. Having known what they did to me, I was scared to death of doctors. I saw them as what do you call it? A death, like literally, like the cloak, and that's how I envisioned them in my head. And I was deathly afraid of them. I was very pissed off at them. So I did not even think, that wasn't in my head. Once I found out, they were cut the hell off of like me ever trying to go get help again from them. I would not.
Which is it's such a real fear, because I too shared that fear. And what's really scary about that is, we obviously need doctors for certain things, but when you go through trauma like this, and something that didn't ever have to happen, it was preventable. It didn't have to, whether that was their lack of knowledge or whatever it is, it's still this came to us, was brought on by us, by the influence, by the prescription, by the education, and the aware, like, of these doctors that are supposed to be there to help. And, not saying that they did this maliciously to hurt us, but it still happened the way it happened. So it causes this serious PTSD, trauma response, like, freak out. Like, it's a very, very real fear. And I mean, it's something that I constantly still have to work on all the time.
Yes.
I completely can relate to you. So what did you, when you decided that, and you're like, I'm not going in that building, I'm not seeing that kind of specialist, I'm not seeing that doctor anymore, what did you do? So now it's 2023. What So it was 2017 to 2020 was like the real hellish period for you.
Yeah.
But then
Yep.
the last 3 years, or last, now that we're at last 2-3 years.
Yep.
What has it been drastic improvements for you? Where have you been at in this process?
Yes, very drastic improvements. So now it is still a little bit around my mouth and it can flare. But I put triamcinolone on the corners, just on the corners all the time because they would crack when I was younger and I had no idea. Like, what I just thought, oh, it's a lotion, I'm just gonna do it. And they always said, never put that on your face. But it'd be so bad. And I'd be like, oh, I'm just a tiny dab. And I did that forever. And we all know like our skin face is different than, the rest of our body. And my hands and wrists right here are still pretty, they're way better. I can move them most of the time, a lot of the time. And my ankles, that's like the only things left. And when I get a flare now, it's not even that bad anymore. It's like having, eczema as like a bad day of eczema. So it's
more to describe it. So it's just the dry, itchy skin, or are you getting red? You're not oozing anymore? You're not like
No, actually, no, not at all. There's no oozing at all. That has completely stopped. There's no chills anymore, those crazy chills. Although I kind of turned to like them because it would like start in my body and just go down and up, and it would kind of take the pain away from how painful it was. And I would just, kind of in my head follow it around my body when the chills would come and move. And it's like nerves almost, like just like everywhere. But yeah, I don't get the chills anymore. And yeah, like I said, I can move. I was doing videos, and I remember the first day I went out and I was like, I can move my hands today. Oh my God. And then from there, it just kept getting better. Although, it goes up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down. But yeah, now I can say I'm out of that, the horrible part of it, which took me a long time, because I do think like my story, I don't know if anybody, I haven't seen anybody else or heard yet that they went to the Mayo Clinic and got the wet wraps and then continued them. And I was on like the Topical Steroid Withdrawal support site, one of those, for 6 years. I'm reading through the stories and everything and putting mine up too. But yeah, the wet wraps were like horrible. But yeah, I think that I kind of count that into my story as like maybe that's why mine was so bad, compared not even like I didn't lose my hair like some people lose their hair. Mine got thinner, of course, but I didn't, it wasn't anything like that, where I've seen people lose their hair, their eyebrows, everything. Like, that's insane. But yeah, I just didn't know of anybody talking about the Mayo Clinic yet so far.
I heard it. You're the first that I've heard to go.
Yeah.
I mean, some people on their own do wet wraps, but never, the steroid lotion and wet wrapping that in. It's usually for, as a treatment for some of us, they find relief with zinc wraps, bandages, wraps like that. But what would you say out of all the symptoms that we go through, that thermoregulation, the body temperature changes and the shedding of the skin and the crazy, the bone deep itch, the oozing, like all of them, what would you say was the worst one for you? I mean, that's kind of, I know it's an impossible question.
I know it is, but
they all suck in so many ways.
Yeah. I just say, man, the pain, whatever, and that could be even oozing can be pain. But the insane pain. Like, I actually enjoyed the itch sometimes because I wouldn't hurt, but I would know as soon as I'm done, oh, I'm screwed because it's going to hurt now. You know what I mean? Like, but the pain, it was so insane. And the mental, there's not just one, but seeing yourself like, yes, having all that pain, yes, but then when you see yourself, that's scary. That was like really hard for me, especially since I think all of us with eczema or any skin problems, we always are self-conscious anyways of the way we look. Mm-hmm. But to see your whole face fall off and not get better for years, and you know, that's scary. Or your hands, and you know, because sometimes, you know, I could feel okay, and I'm like, oh, okay, today I feel okay. Okay, my hands hurt a little bit, you know, I think I can walk today. But then you go in the bathroom and look in the mirror, or you look at your hands, or you look at your body when you're getting up, and you want to just lay back down and go to sleep, you know? So yeah, I think a lot of the pain and the mental, the flooding thoughts and the negative thinking, I would say too, that goes with that.
Totally relate to you. You know, when you wake up in the morning, it's almost like you have a gift. If you're somebody waking up to be able to sleep, because I didn't sleep for the first like 4 months.
Yep.
But you know, if you're able to sleep and then you wake up and you're like, you should think, oh, it's a new day, fresh start. And it's like, oh wait, it's Groundhog's Day. It's the same day over and over again. And I still look in the mirror and I can't recognize myself at all. I still am feeling all these symptoms. It's like the most depressing thing. And that's why we have these suicidal, very awful, dark thoughts, because it's like the other part of it is because there's no quote cure yet. And they're just telling us, oh, it'll have to be time's the only healer, which is nice that they're saying it will eventually heal, but it's also so terrifying, to your point, because you're like, when is the end? When is it going to be done? Like, what can I be doing? Am I going to, by trying these different products or treatments, am I hurting myself? Am I doing the right thing? Am I changing my diet for no reason? Like the thing goes on, and you're like on this little island by yourself, really. Because even all of us that have gotten to know one another, that are in these communities, that find each other, thank God that we did, it's still what works for one does not work for another. And it's not one of those things where, okay, if I'm thinking of something. If you break your bone, you go to the doctor, you get a cast, you let it heal. If you have strep throat, you get an antibiotic, it's gone in 7 days. Like, this is not that. This is a gigantic question mark, a guessing game, and we're all like trying to figure it out. And that is the most like heavy, like dark cloud over our heads, I think, where we're like, how do we do this? Like, how do we get through this? And that's why these communities are so important. So we know we're not alone. But on the other side, it's like, yeah, but you're still living in your household with your family or whoever, or by yourself, or whatever it is your situation looks like, and you're the only one living and trapped in this body.
Right.
I hate saying it like that because I have such a massive appreciation for going through this, and maybe you agree, like I am now like, wow, my body is always working so hard for me to try to heal itself and to try to be at its best. And it goes through, and if you don't go through something so traumatic like this, you may not realize like my body is amazing. It's incredible what it's doing. And like, just watching, like you said, I always say my face is falling off. I say it all the time, and because that's the only way to describe it, right? Like you blink and your skin's just all over your clothes. It's your face, and it's just constant shedding. So it's kind of like, even to see what our bodies go through in the bad stages of this, it's like they are crazy strong to be able to go through and take these many punches and this much pain. And agony. It's kind of impressive.
Yes. I love saying, like, your body's ability to heal itself is far greater than anyone has programmed you to believe, because I have never heard any of my doctors tell me that, hey, your body can heal itself. Never once heard that. I didn't hear anybody talking about that ever. I mean, I had to research on my own. But I want to say about the support, my husband, Craig, so he was a huge support, because I would scream at him some days to leave me alone, because he'd be like, you have to get up, Kelly. You have to get out of the bed, at least move from the bed to the couch, you know? And I would scream at him, like, leave me alone. I'm going to die. You don't understand. And I would be so frustrated. And he could take it. He took all of that. And he would bring, new blankets out and set, like, always have a bed ready for me no matter where I was. He would force me to go outside when I did not want to, when I said I couldn't, and thank God he didn't believe me, and he would force me. He would set up these little spots for me, like out in the yard, and he would put a blanket and make sure, like an umbrella if I needed it. He would, God, the first 5 months straight, I was juicing. And that's all I would have. And every day, like, I'd be in bed all the time, and he'd come in with a cup packed full of live living nutrients and healing juice. And he would give it to me, and I would, slam it really quick, give it back. I'm done. And he would come in and do that, like, how many times a day? The food, like, he would start making me organic food, and he would have plates for me and give it to me. There's like a couple times, like, he had to feed me. I couldn't use my hands, brush my hair, help me in and out of the bath. Like, I remember one time I had to put my feet onto his feet and have him walk me down to my car. And just so many things, and so many things, like, he would tell me every day, you are super powerful, you're strong, you're beautiful, even though I was like, yep, shut up. I'm like, no, I'm not, I already know. But yeah, he was a huge support. If I didn't have him, like, I don't even know what I would do. And like, I remember him walking. It was, what was it, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 miles to the organic food co-op. And he, like, our cars didn't work at the time, or I don't know what was happening, but he walked all the way there just to get me the beetroot, the ginger, all that stuff, like, juicing stuff, the green apples. And he walked there and came back. Like, that was a couple of times he had to do that, more than once. And just so much support from him, like,
that's such,
like, making me move. Yeah. And then also, like, my dad, because I lived at his house, and I still am here right now, but thank God, because my family, we went, like, what would I have done if I couldn't be at my dad's house? And my dad's, he's super supportive. He would do that stuff too. Like, here, Kelly, do you want? He'd come in with some food sometimes if Craig wasn't around or whatever. And then my kids also too were really supportive. And I remember crying, and I would try to, like, not cry in front of them. But at a certain point, I'm like, whatever, they're going to know, and they should know, I guess. Like, I should not be hiding anything. This is real, and this is what's happening. But they'd give me hugs and tell me I'm beautiful, and they'd always say, Mom, you are the strongest one in the family. Yeah, you're the strongest one in the family, Mom. I'm like, oh, my God. And just Craig kept the kids, like, always checking on me if he wasn't around, and just there's probably, and I know there's so much more to say about him and my family and my support, my sisters, they weren't around, but I would talk to them all the time. And I heard a couple of times, like, from other, like, people that didn't really know, like, she's, she should be back on the lotion. She shouldn't do that. And I was like, but Craig didn't tell me these things till later, so I'm glad that he wouldn't say that. And he actually knocked them out. Yeah, he actually kept them from saying those to me. And he would keep people away from me some days, because I wouldn't want to see people. I wouldn't want to I wouldn't want them to see me more so. You know what I mean? Like, don't look at my face.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Did Craig then, from the minute that you realized, oh my gosh, this is TSW, this is me, this is what I have, did he, from the very beginning, say, yeah, I agree with you? Was he on board? He was on board with
yes.
You wanted to do this. That's huge.
Yeah, he's like, oh my God, because I'd be watching videos and videos after I learned that day of the 3 days of not knowing and going to the doctor and then leaving. Like, I remember going back to the doctor one time. And I told them my whole story. I told them the whole thing, and they came in saying, we think there's some pieces missing to your story. I'm like, how? I started when I was like infant. I was born with eczema. That's how I started it. Like, I was born with eczema, and now blah blah blah. And I told them I wasn't using any Western medicine or anything. And of course they thought that was wrong. And so I was observed overnight. And then in the morning, the nurse came in and said, well, we would prescribe you more topical steroids and have you go see a dermatologist. And he's like, okay, we're out of here. And I even jumped out of the bed with my robe on. I'm like, we're gone. And he like looked at the nurse and he's like, really? You have I hope you, like, if you have children, would you do this to your children after this, what you just saw? And I guess when we were leaving, she had walked out after he was saying some stuff to her, and I jumped out of bed and I'm like, yeah, whatever. And then we saw her at her desk and she was like sitting like this. So I don't know if she looked it up or not. Well, hopefully we raised some awareness that day. But yeah, always being a super huge support. And everybody like listening to what I said, and when I was going through and researching and finding new things and what was going on with me in my own experience, and just keep saying it, people would actually, everyone was listening, and they took in my information, because I'd always say, no, I'm not going to the doctors. Okay. You don't ever tell me that. Don't talk to me about that. I don't want to hear it. Because until you've been poisoned for 30 years straight by a lotion, not even have to be an oral, although I had orals, but until you have been poisoned by a innocent tube of lotion for 30 years by multiple different doctors, including the best of the best, Mayo Clinic, then please don't talk to me about ever talking to a doctor about this or trying to help me. And the funny thing is, I think it's weird, because if our parent, or let's say we were being raised by whoever, or we were with a friend, and they were poisoning us slowly for years at a time, and then we finally found out, well, they would be prosecuted, attempted murder. But guess what? No, we can't do that to the people prescribing these. And I did look into like a whole lawsuit. I was trying to get a class action lawsuit for everyone, because I'm like, I'm never going to stop. This is messed up. We need to have a voice. We need, I had a bunch of people on the Topical Steroid Withdrawal site that said they would, go in on it with me, and I started researching everything, and I found, there's over 165 companies that make topical steroids, and a lot of them are overseas, and I'm like, oh God. So who do you even sue? Who do you even, and not that it's even about money, I don't give a crap. I just want it so big that, they can understand, whatever they're taught. If they think this is okay, it's not okay. And it's weird now, because I had to watch my grandma like for a while, and I would be up there and she'd always have cable on. I don't watch cable anymore. I don't think anybody does. But she was older and she always had her cable shows. And so I'd sit with her, and I started seeing commercials for eczema, psoriasis, and they would say, oh, have our new drug. This lotion is steroid free.
I know.
Oh, weird. Steroid free. So, they know, and I believe it was all of the TSW people saying that, that it was getting out there, and the more, and now that they were advertising it that way, I was like, oh, wow. So it's getting out there, but they're not saying what the topical steroids actually do. They're just saying, oh, we made new drugs without steroids this time,
So my mom's been telling me the same thing. And honestly, I was noticing it myself, and I'm thinking there's no coincidence here. It's a good thing. I wish it was the process was going faster than it is, but at least it's starting. There's movement happening. We're making a little bit of waves. We're getting a little bit of attention out there. And it's like shows like this and all the other things, and people out there spreading awareness, people like you telling your stories. Mm-hmm. Like, this is, the louder we can get, the better chance we have to prevent all these other future people from going through something like this. Yes. I'm glad that you looked. Yeah. You're right. Like, where do you even begin? You can't sue us one specific doctor or one specific,
nope.
one specific, but
no.
say the amount of anguish and turmoil we go through, and some people are at this for years and years and years, and some people it's like you're really a disability patient at this point. Like you should be on, because we are out of work, we are completely debilitated, we are like, I mean, it just goes on. And I think somebody told me recently, like the end of summer, that in the UK they are not only recognizing TSW now, but they are talking about putting people on disability for it, because it's a crippling, horrible thing. So that's at least a little bit of progress. But I mean, I just, gosh, I feel like I could talk to you for like 3 days straight.
I know. Is it like really late? Because I just have a couple more things to say quick.
Yeah, we just got to wrap it up. And like, yeah, I wanted to.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
No, go for it.
Go pretty fast.
This is very valuable.
God, you just said something I wanted to add to that. Yeah, I'm on disability. Okay, I did do that. I did go to SSI, and I did fill it out, and I did get approved. Whether they said it was my skin or my mental, I don't know. But I got the letter, and I was looking through everything, and I think it was because of my skin. But I had my 3-year checkup, and I had to go back to the doctor to see if I could continue getting SSI. And that threw me through a huge loop when I knew I had to go back, because they get to just... They don't know anything about it. But I went in with my pictures with a camera, like an actual camera got like developed, and I went in and gave them all my pictures. I'm like, here, take them all. Just take them. And the doctor, and I was so freaked out about going back to a doctor. I was like shaking, and I was trying to like breathe and not show, but I couldn't help it because my body just did that. And what they say, PTSD, I say cellular body memory, but like it was just scary, and the doctor could tell. And yes, I got approved again. But my plan was to, when I'm done with all of this and I'm healed, I am going back and I'm going to show them I did it all without doctors, Western medicine, and that I healed from it, and it is because of the lotion. Also, I want to say that obviously I'm in my art room. And in the time of TSW, I got, it was so cool because I would see like a piece of art that I liked, or a picture, or colors. And it literally, I could feel something in me. And I was like, oh my God, that's so pretty. I want to paint that. I wonder if I could do that. And I started doing that. I started painting and started using oil pastels because I've used them in the past. And even when my hands didn't work, like I would like hold it lightly and I would just focus. I trained myself to only look at the picture, not my hands, because I'd be out in the sun drawing in my yard. And I could, if I focused on my hands, everything would go down. But when I was focusing on what I was doing and the colors, and the first feeling I felt from seeing the art or the colors that I was trying to recreate, that feeling of inspiration stayed with me the whole time that I was doing it. So if it took me 3 hours, I got to be pulled out of hell, and I got to be in this beautiful space where that feeling of inspiration stayed. And in that time I created, I think at the end I had like 27 pieces of art. Wow. And Craig's like, oh my God, this is awesome. Like, we should share it. I'm like, yeah, we should share it. How do I share it? Like, okay, I'm going to share it. So I went out and I had a cardboard, like a big cardboard piece. I stuck all my originals in there, and I was like, I'm going to create my day. I'm going to create my good feelings in me. I'm not going to have anybody outside me do this. I'm going, to create this. So I went out downtown St. Cloud, and I walked the whole strip of every business, and I went into every business, and I opened it up, and I said, I am just donating art. I just want to get my name and art out there. Is there any pieces that you would want? You can have. Like, you can hang them up. And I got denied my first time. So I was like, oh, God, the first one I went into, they're like, no, we don't have any room on our walls. And their walls were like blank. And I was like, okay, well, thank you. And then I left. I was like, oh my God, I don't even want to do this. This is like, I have the whole that strip on each side. I don't want to, but I made myself do it. And I did, the people did, they wanted my art. So I got to hang up some of my art, and I followed some other things around, and I got it eventually into like 11 places and started making prints and like doing that, putting my art up everywhere. And Craig was right there with me, basically helping me and, you know, showing me stuff. And then we, then I started making my art, my canvas art, scanning them in, making them into stickers. And I would put them all around town in different places, in the woods, and just my favorite place, in just little spots. And the whole thing around that is the feeling of inspiration. Like people, like, yes, you can get to a great spot by doing, you know, being grateful, and it does bring you up more. But in the situation that I was in, and that a lot of people are in, if they want to die and they don't feel good about themselves, it is not easy to get to gratitude or be thankful for anything. But the feeling of inspiration, for me, it made me feel unlimited. Like, I can do that. I will. And I'm gonna, you know, that feeling that is, it literally, for me, makes me feel unlimited, which is a great feeling to have. But anyway, so then I got some of my art out, and I was like, okay, and, you know, some places is denied, and gallery. Then I learned about galleries and all that, and I'm like, oh my God, there's a fee, there's all these stipulations and these roadblocks that were for me. Like, I didn't have a car at the time, so like I couldn't get to those art festivals. I couldn't share my art in those. I had to pay. I was broke. We were all broke, so I couldn't pay. I didn't have tables. I didn't have prints even. I didn't have all this. I didn't have a website. Some galleries were like, you need a website. We need, you know, all this stuff, and make it look professional, and, you know, an art bio that's printed out, that's on your computer. You know, I didn't have a way, and I was like, what the, like, oh my God, like, I thought, like, the art world is free. Like, I should be able to share my art for free. What is going on? Like, I have to have all these things I didn't know about. Some was like the T9 government form just to join art festivals. Like, I was like, oh, what is going on? Like, this is hard. What? And Craig was like, how about we just put our art in our yard, and we'll just have it there, and we'll just see if people come by, and if they like it, we can sell it to them. I'm like, that's cool. I was like, yeah, no shit. Let's just do that, because we don't have a car. We can't even bring our art anywhere. And I was like, you know what though? What if there's other artists like me that just have a passion for art? They don't go to college. They don't do all this stuff. They don't have websites. They're just literally having the passion and creating all this art. Well, then, like, maybe there are people like me. So I drew up a flyer, and I made a bunch of copies. And I took a staple gun, or staple hammer, and I went out and I stapled them to the telephone pole. And I went around. I was like, I'll give myself a month. Let's just see what happens. What would happen if anybody wants to join? It was saying calling all artists. And pretty soon I started getting emails. And I was like, I want to join the show, because I called it the drive-by art show. I'm like, what are we going to call it? It's so like you're walking by. And then COVID hit too at that time. There was all the art things were down. And so I was like, we're going to use this. We're going to use this. And we're going to call it the drive-by art show. Nobody knows that I couldn't, like, take my art and have a vehicle to drive it to get it set up. No, we just did it in our yard. So now it's the third year. And we only do it in the summer. It was one show a month, every month for the summer. So 3 shows, and now 3 years. I will be doing it again this summer. But other artists joined in, and that was my point. I always wanted my art to be the eye catcher to my story, because I wrote up my story. I had my story on every single piece that I sold in the back about TSW. I did get into the St. Cloud Times, which is our local newspaper here, front page twice, and interviewed. And I always mention topical steroid withdrawal, because that is my point to the art show, to the art. So if anybody's coming in like, what's this all about? Well, first let me tell you. And I have my board. If you could see, one of them that I always put up right there in the front so everybody can see it. And I have my story, and I have the brochures from the ITSAN site. And I have everything up to really have awareness. And before that, when I had my stickers out, I did scan them in. There's a girl screaming, like a 1950s girl type style screaming. I put Topical Steroid Withdrawal, ITSAN.org, so they could look it up. And I put those stickers all over in the Centric Care, which is our huge doctors, Centric Care, huge circle of doctors, and a couple dermatologist offices here in town.
So good.
Up in Brainerd, I went to their dermatologist and I stuck them on there everywhere.
You are so awesome.
Yeah, that's
so amazing, and I'm so I love your art from what I see. I want to I want to see more. I want to see you crushing it, and it's very inspiring that you look all the roadblocks and then also the rejections, right? Of going to places and just being your own best inspiration is. And
not to mention my face was still kind of bad too, going out to talk to people like that.
So you're scared to do it and you're embarrassed and it's but you did it anyway. And
yep.
I want to thank you so incredibly much for being on the show. Your story matters, and I can't wait for people to listen to this episode and get inspired to go do some hard things, some things that maybe they're timid about doing, but also put their focus away from the turmoil that we're going through and find something that brings you joy. And
yes.
Pursue that. And you just inspired me, and I know you inspired other people listening. And I cannot thank you enough, Kelli. You were such a fun guest, and I can't wait to stay in touch with you. And
and thank you so much for doing this too. You're amazing with all. You said you have tons of people now, and everybody wants to be on it, and it's a great opportunity. Thank you so much.
Well, I'm glad that we're new friends, and I can't wait to keep in touch. And thank you again for being here. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much.
Bye, Kelli.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. Please remember to subscribe and leave feedback. With your help, we can spread awareness together. So please share the show with anyone you know who may be struggling with a medical condition and using steroids to treat it. And be sure to check out the blog for helpful resources to aid you along your TSW journey at tswjourneytohealing.com.